Welcome to the Animal Combo project in Adobe Photoshop. So here we are. I'm creating this Animal Combo book project for graphic design, and this is my example. This is what you're going to be doing in class. So you're going to be actually combining different animals together and putting it in its own environment, and then creating a title. This is my example, and it's titled Evolutionary Happenstance. And you can then put yourself as the author and just basically do some cool compositing and kind of put it all together. So the main idea here is to combine different animals using cloning and painting and different techniques to make it feel like it really belongs in the scene here. So let's check out the image size here. Let's go to image size, and you'll see that the image here is 9.5 by 12 inches, which is a book size that's very popular. You can choose a number of different sizes if you like, but I do recommend working a little bit larger in the beginning and then scale down. The reason why is the way it works. If you scale down, the details will become sharper as they scale down rather than going and scaling up. So if I zoom in here, I've done some painting and some cloning to combine to make this animal. When you zoom out here, it looks pretty good. When you zoom in, it's not. It's a little rougher looking. So if you go to File and choose New, we'll click on the print area here and click on tabloid. That's the size I recommend, 11 by 17. You can choose the vertical or the horizontal. I recommend the vertical here for my composition. I'm going to click create. At that point, I can then bring in animals in here, different parts, and sort of combine them together. So I have chosen a couple of animals here to combine for an image, and this is from pexels.com. So great open source site for personal and actually professional use if you want to use it for commercial work. So really awesome site. You just type in whatever animal you want, and there's lots to choose from. So the main thing here is to find animals that will basically combine well in terms of their appearance, in terms of their positioning. Here you can see it's a side profile of the elephant, and this leopard here is kind of looking out. And I think that those two pieces will kind of work well if the leopard head on top of the elephant. In this image, we got nice even lighting, so this will work really well. Thing you want to kind of avoid is harsh shadows. This one actually does have some harsh shadows in the elephant head here, but I'll be masking this out primarily, so there's some shadows underneath in the body, but I think we'll be able to work with it. And then I can put different legs and maybe some wings or whatever else I want to add to the animal at the end. So in order to mask this animal out, a great new tool is the object selection tool. It is with the quick selection and the magic wand. The hotkey is W. So if you hit the W key, and you can access it. And if you hit Shift W, you can sort of rotate through those three tools. And or you can just hold down the mouse and get to the tool. And the way the object selection works is you just basically draw across over the entirety of the subject. And so I just want to make sure I go over the entire elephant. And there's an AI algorithm set up here through Photoshop that basically creates a selection for you, which is pretty awesome. So you can click on the quick mask icon right here, which has a hotkey of Q, and see what your selection is. So I can click on that or hit the Q key. And it does a pretty good job, but I'm going to deselect this by hitting Control D. You can go to Select Menu and deselect. There's the hotkey. And with this same tool selected, in the options bar up here is the Select Subject button. And I think usually this one does a better job for some reason. And if I hit the Q key here, you can see it did a pretty good job of selecting it. Just a little bit of the tail, not quite so great, but it works out pretty well. There's a little bit over here, it's not exactly perfect, so what I can do is I can zoom in those areas and kind of fix it. So I'll zoom in on here in this little area here and switch back to the tool. And what you can do is you can hold the Alt key and just drag over that area to deselect, and it's a pretty smart algorithm. It basically knows to deselect that area. Just make sure you go over the entirety of the area, and then if it takes away too much, you can hold the Shift key, which is to add to the selection, and just make sure you go over the entirety of that area again, and it'll kind of snap like a rubber band to those two areas. So this little bit here, again, I can just hold Alt and kind of drag across, and look at that. That really did a good job of like sort of snapping in between there with a couple of clicks of the mouse. So if I wanted to accept this selection, I can then click on the mask icon here, which basically is a square with a circle in it. Kind of reflects the quick mask over here in terms of its visibility and appearance. So click on that and you have your mask. And then I could modify it. I could paint away that, say, the head here and so forth, just by clicking inside the mask here. If you do want to see a preview or a bigger preview of your mask here, all you gotta do is right click in here in the gray area and choose large thumbnails, and you can get a bigger preview of this. And then if you want to see your mask, you can hold the Alt key on it to select it, and then hold Alt to remove it. And if you want to hide it, you can hold the Shift key. So there's a couple of cool hotkeys for you. But with the mask selected, I can paint away areas. So if I wanted to, I could just make my brush size bigger here and paint away this part of the elephant. Now, if I hit the X key and reverse black and white and paint in that area, I bring it back, and that's the whole cool thing about masking. So I'll probably get rid of the head and some other parts here later on. But let's switch over to the animal here of the leopard to show you what we can do here. So with this one select, I'm going to grab the object selection tool and click select subject. And it'll do a really good job of selecting this if I hit the Q key. The only thing is there's a little bit of the whiskers here that I can't get the fine whiskers here. I'd have to do hand masking and really paint this out. It's just easier just to paint it in general. So what I'm going to do is just grab the paintbrush tool, and I'm just going to select, I just want to bring it out a little bit to get a little bit of this puffier white area of the whiskers. So it's just a little bit more there. And that looks pretty good. Hit the Q key, and so I got a little bit more of the whiskers there. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on this square circle to bring up the layer mask. Now, once you have masked the animal, you'll see that this has sort of hard edges. And you can see it better if we add a new layer by clicking on the new layer icon next to the trash can. I'll drag this below it, and I'm going to grab the paint bucket and basically just drop in, I'll swap the colors here and just paint red in the background. And you can kind of see how it's got kind of a harsher edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this mask, and if I double click in it, I'll go into the select and mask icon area, which will give me the properties for that, which there's some really nice options in here. The first area is basically how you view this. So if you click on any of these, you can choose the marching ants or the overlay or on black. There's a couple different options. I like the overlay mode, and you can adjust the opacity here of how that will work together with it, and the red behind it is kind of popping out. The thing you want to check here is this little box smart radius, and then if I increase this radius, watch what happens to the fur here. As we start to increase that, you really start to get some really cool detail. So you just kind of have to bring it out however far you want until you get, a cool amount of detail. And right about there, it looks pretty good. I'm starting to get some really excellent detail of the fur all the way around. So all I gotta do is click OK to apply, and voila. Now we've got this tremendous mask. The whiskers on the side, I'll be able to paint real easy with the paintbrush. I'll just demo really quick here, add a new layer, and make my brush really small here. Basically, if I paint it with white right now, I would have, not the greatest kind of marks, but if I increase this smoothing feature up here in the top, I would get the ability to create nice smooth sort of strokes. And I'm using a mouse right now, so it's not coming off very great. But if I used a stylus on here, I could get some really cool whiskers. But I wouldn't want to do this here anyways. I would do this in the final composite. So anyways, this is the first section of the project. In the next section, I'll have a bunch of animal parts sort of combined together loosely, and then we'll be able to start cloning and showing some painting techniques in Adobe Photoshop. Until then, see you soon. Cheers.